Hello viewers, welcome back to Dexter's Lab 2013. Sorry it has been a while since my last video. It's been busy round here and I really have not managed to find anything particularly interesting to tear down recently. Or I have, and it's been too expensive. I do like to do one teardown a month, but not this time, I'm afraid. Hopefully something will come to light soon. So, back to this video. What I want to do in this video is open a new chapter in my Quantel Paintbox adventure. Today I'm going to work on run through this system because this could be a very good step towards getting animated video sequences that I'd like to use here on this channel with the use of the Quantel Ramcorder. The channel is all about vintage tech, so it'd be awesome to use some of it. So this system was picked up along with all the other Quantel parts I have. Only briefly mentioned it in previous videos, and it's pretty much been lent up against the wall doing nothing at all. The system I fixed up previously was the early V-Series chassis I'll call 10352, that's its serial number. It does seem to be missing the Ramcorder and animation software options, unfortunately, so I can't really do much in the way of animation on it. This one is numbered 71335 and is a late version Quantel Picturebox, specifically the Express version, so it's a Picturebox Express. The hardware is essentially the same. It has been slightly modernised as it's about 8 years newer than the older system. So we've got extras like built-in SDI video I/O, more system RAM, Ethernet and a faster CPU. The Picturebox, although it is based on the same hardware, is really just a picture and storage display device, allowing users to load and save images through a network from other paintboxes. It can also be used for queuing images for display in live broadcasts like news and things like that. There is no user interface as such. Everything is controlled by serial or network commands, so it doesn't have any picture editing features at all. So what I would like is to hack this Picturebox into a paintbox. The hardware is basically the same as I mentioned several times before. So what else do we need? Well, there's three things: the software, the security PAL IC containing the serial number, and the software keys. One of my viewers contacted me during my early Paintbox videos and mentioned he had a broken Paintbox Express and a Ramcorder. So I figured maybe what I could do is clone his system onto this Picturebox and make this a full Paintbox and hopefully get that Ramcorder working. Now unfortunately his Paintbox is located in Germany, so there was little chance of me actually taking ownership of it. But he was able to supply me with a copy of the Paintbox Express software, which is just here on an MO disc, so that's an original Quantel disc. He also sent me his serial number ICs, so I can make a copy of them. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to give me his software passwords because his machine wasn't actually working. And he wasn't really in a position to be able to look at the hard disk directly and recover the passwords off it, but I did manage to get them from somewhere else. So thanks go out to Chris and another mystery viewer for all of that. Now I have to come clean and admit that this is now a working Paintbox. I'm afraid it was too much of a long process to video the whole thing all the way through the first time around, as it's taken weeks of little steps of progress to get where I am. So what I'm going to show you now here are some parts of what I did. Now I know all the little steps and everything I need to do, and I've got everything to hand. I can kind of summarise it. First off, I needed to verify the cards in this machine match the one in Germany. So let's open this up and I'll give you a quick tour of the inside, and I'll run through the cards that I had to change. Okay, welcome to the insides of a late spec Quantel Paintbox. So we have the power supply, very similar to the one that was in the old version. A couple of fans at the front. We've got the floppy drive just here. This now is a SCSI floppy disk. Before they had this on a separate interface with their own interface board on the older system, but this now uses a SCSI floppy drive, so much more sensible solution there. We have a 3.5-inch hard disk there. That is SCSI as well. That one is 4 gigabytes if I recall correctly. So much improved over the old version that originally had a 5 1/4 330 megabyte drive in, so you can see everything's definitely a bit more modern. So if we take a look at the cards, we have the backplane on the base there. That is different again from the old version. They've obviously improved and just sort of slightly updated it, I think. We also have a second floppy disk, hard disk connector there. It's a bit more stuffed in here than the old version. We also have a SNETCOM board. This, I believe, provides the networking interface. It's its own complete system, that one. So it's got a 68,000, its own ROM and its own security PAL, serial number and everything. So that's a completely separate thing. That then connects into the backplane. I think it basically allows it to operate the network fairly transparently to what the rest of the Paintbox is doing. I've seen features where you can mail pictures and things to other users, so I think that provides all the processing for that side of it, allowing the user while they're working the Paintbox not to get slowed down when it's receiving. So the main layout is pretty much the same as the old Paintbox. We have the CPU card, then the image manipulation card just in here, the disk store, the main store, the video out card, and then the video input card. The video in and out are a lot more complex. There's a lot more wires and stuff going over now because we've got more video output options. Now the two cards that I had to replace were the perspective card and the disk store card. These are the ones that I took out. So that is the basic 1 meg disk store card. So I had to swap that out for an 8 meg one. And this is the size card. As obviously you can see, there's not a huge amount on there. So that does the basic sizing operations. If you compare that to the perspective card, I'll just take this out. You can see the perspective card is a lot more complex. Now the biggest difference in this system is the CPU card, which I'll just quickly show you now, so you can see the difference between the old and the new ones. Let's take this out. So that is the new CPU board, known as CPU 42. This has a 68040 CPU on it, running at 33 megahertz. We also have a load more memory, and that's installed as SIMs as well, and a whole lot more glue logic. The diagnostic port has also been expanded, obviously because it's got a 68040 on there now. If we compare that to the old board, so that's the old one with a tiny little CPU just there, and then the new one. So they obviously made some big advances there, making everything run a bit faster, and it certainly does make quite a difference. Right, let's put this to one side and I'll show you the process of actually generating one of those serial number ICs. Now the next step is the security PAL IC, which holds the serial number. I'll show you all the things I do to create a new one. So this is the one that came from Chris. We need to make a copy of that so I can send this one back to him, and then he can put that back in his Paintbox for when he gets it working again. So the security PAL, that is the name that Quantel call it. It is actually a GAL20V8 programmable logic IC. The way they've configured it is it behaves to the system as a small programmed read-only memory, like a ROM. I think Quantel used these as they are easy to make, but they're hard to copy. Within it there's some mildly encrypted data, which is 2 serial numbers, a small text string, and 8 bytes of data that seem to define the hardware. Because of our previous work with these, I can recreate this, and I'll show you that now. So this program called PalGen, which was mostly written by members of the EEV blog forum, has been wrapped in a Windows command line app. It takes two serial numbers, a description string and the configuration bytes, and generates two files for me. One is a binary image of what the device looks like as a PROM, and also a PLD file. The PLD is a set of instructions that are compiled to program the DL117 with the right configuration to make it act as a PROM with the right data encoded in it. So let's do that now. Now I actually have two versions of this this program because I haven't quite finished it yet. Basically the option bytes that are at the end, they are hard coded into the app at the moment. So I've got one that generates one type of option byte and another which generates no option bytes. So what we need to do here is do PalGen no opt, and then we need the serial number that we want to give to the system, which is 10,000, and then a group serial number of the same, then the description, which is Paintbox. Run that, and that generates us these few little files and an output. So here we've got the two serial numbers, the description string, and that's encoded here in this sort of hex layout. So the two serial numbers are just encoded here, and then we have the text string and then a load of spaces, and then we have the rest of the option bytes located in this region here. That is encoded and sort of mildly encrypted into this, and that generates us out.bin and out.pld. The binary file, as I said before, is a binary copy of what the PROM would look like, and out.pld is the instructions to encode all that data into the DL117. So the next step is to load that PLD file into a program called WinCUPL, and that will compile all this data into a JED file, which we can then load into our programmer and actually program the device. So we simply need to load that up and then compile it. That's just popped up over here, so that was nice and quick. So that now has given us a JED file, so we can load that into the Mini Pro programmer software, and we already have DL117B selected there, and that is actually all the data there. So the next thing to do is to plug in the programmer, and we can program a new IC. Okay, so we've got our programmer, and we have a used DL117 that we can just drop in there, and then we can go up to program. We'll turn the lock bit off. Basically what that does is prevents reading back, but we're not really concerned about anything like that anymore, so we can leave that off so it can always be read back if needs be, and we program. And that's done and verified. Let's just double check that. Successful. So once we have programmed up the new serial number IC, it then becomes really just a software problem. What you need to do is, this is a copy of the software, this is an MO disk, so you just get the Paintbox to boot off this on an external drive, and then you can go about actually setting up the hard disk and copying the software across to the internal disk, booting off that, and then installing all the passwords. Now, I'm not actually going to show you that because it is really quite troublesome, awkward. I'm sure I'm not doing it right, and so instead of watching me blunder around trying to recreate that again, which I don't really want to do, to be honest, it's all set up and running. So what I'll do now, I'll just boot the system up, and I'll give you another quick tour of a new Quantel Paintbox, and then we can start looking at the Ramcorder. So we'll just turn this on. starts loading the image off the disk. And it starts booting up. And the Paintbox is running. Let's put this out the way. Now this is all sort of fairly similar to the other one. There's obviously a few little extras. The picture stores have changed slightly. We now have this thing called the table. You can see there it's Paintbox Express software version 1.15. All this is just sort of laid out a little bit differently. The palette has also changed. We have a quick access to the paint, chalk and airbrush tools. The brush, you can actually be varied in size between 1 and 100, whereas before we only had fixed sizes for the brush. We have RGB values for the actual paint colour, so you can actually type these in as well, which you couldn't do before. You can change that to YUV or HSL as well. Apart from that, the functions are pretty much the same. The zoom function is the same, although the magnify function which we saw on the old system has gone. Presumably they figured they didn't actually need it. Graphics, yeah, pretty much the same. Effects are slightly different. We've got some high con and keyer options to allow you to create stencil keys. Paste up menus are slightly different. The 3D option has moved from here to over here, but it's all pretty much the same as it was. Animation is slightly expanded, probably because we have the Ramcorder options. The library functions are pretty much the same, although they are a hell of a lot quicker than they used to be. Now, what I did when I set this system up, I actually installed the software onto the existing disk, so all the images and stuff that were there before are still here now. So it seems that this machine was last used around about 2005, and it looks like it was in use at ITV. So there's a lot of ITV stuff here. And there's lots of MPs, so maybe it was used in news, one of the news channels or something. So yeah, we've got the ITV 50 when they had their 50-year celebration thing a number of years ago, and we've got Central News graphics and ITV News graphics. All text cards and stuff. There's stuff from Carlton TV. Now the really good bits are in the system menu, so turn off the library and we're into the system menu. In here the preferences and config has changed slightly. There's a few more options and stuff, but in here we have options for the Ramcorder, which is absolutely awesome. So it means that you can define the Ramcorder to be on one of the digital outputs, and that does allow us to have a few more animation features. So we can do things like this. So if I chop out a bit, what we can actually do is actually do keyframe animation here. So if I want that to move on the screen. I can have it there and then jump up. Frame 25. These are all configurable. I'll go into more detail this when hopefully I get the Ramcorder working. So that can then move down to there, and simply go back, and then you can try it, and it moves. Now what you can do is spin that as well. So what the Ramcorder would allow us to do is have the do it option, which doesn't do anything at the moment, which would render that in high resolution out to the Ramcorder. Obviously it can't do it in real time. You can see here it drops down to a low resolution bitmap when it does that animation. Obviously when it renders it properly, it'll do it not in real time, and then save each frame as it does it onto the Ramcorder. Okay, thanks for watching everybody, hope you enjoyed this little one. Next up will be the Ramcorder, where I'm going to have a quick look at that and see if we can get that working, because that is a pretty awesome bit of kit. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.